Yo, I Respectfully Disagree podcast, back with another episode on this special March sadness. I damn near don't even want to look at games today, but here we are. Want to welcome a new face, a new voice to the podcast. Go on and introduce yourself.
I'm LaShuan Pettigrew, formerly Bransford, for those who don't know, but I'm LaShuan Pettigrew. I've been a UK fan, probably since I was about
longer than
9
me.
or 10. I used to watch it with my grandma, and she passed away when I was 12, so I started watching with her. So I just remember, watching with her. I was young, so I didn't really know, what was going on. But then all I saw was, winning and excitement, and here we are.
And that's exactly what we getting ready to talk about, because I'm in the same boat in a sense. My grandmother was a diehard UK, but UK was on so much to where I did not like them. So growing up, I don't have that same passion early as I do now, because it was like in the early 90s, I was watching Iverson them. So I always watched Georgetown. But that's peak Kentucky. They was winning chips and everything during that time. So grandmama was going crazy about her cats. Every regular season game, all of that. If Kentucky's on, everything in the house stops. And it got to the point to where it's like I really hated seeing it. But I remember they were winning. I remember the denim uniforms with the Converse and all of that. So I tell her that I'm going to UK. She was so excited and happy and things like that. So when I graduated, she was able to come and be in RUP and all that stuff. So that was a big moment for my family. But by then, I started cheering for them. So when I got to UK, Tubby was still there. So I went through that whole process of how they got rid of him, and I was upset about it.
Right.
But we gonna dive into it slowly. I don't want to put it all out there, but it's like upset loss Thursday.
Tragic.
I want to know, how did you truly feel before the game, going into it, considering that they had just lost in the SEC tournament? How did you feel going into this game last week, or the other day, excuse me?
Going into the game, I was comfortable. I was loose, excited. I was just ready, ready to play. I thought it was our year. Being that we lost in the SEC tournament, I didn't really hold much weight to that, because I'm thinking, well, Anthony Davis, they didn't win the SEC tournament, so, but they at least won a game,
Right.
So
honestly, I forgot that they didn't.
Yeah, they didn't win. So I thought we could very well do this, even without, winning the SEC tournament. So I thought it would be a good thing. I actually thought the Karl Anthony Towns, Devin Booker team, if they would have lost the SEC tournament and got that out the way, we would have won. That's always been my, thought.
Yeah, lose early so you can get it out the way.
Yeah.
And then you got that chip on your shoulder.
Right.
That makes sense. And for me,
I felt
go ahead.
good.
It was like I was the same way in a sense, because I was pissed off, excuse my language, at how they lost to A&M.
Yeah.
But as you all know, throughout the year, I'm always going off on my rants. And I noticed throughout the year, I'm like, we can't play defense. And early, it was just kind of like, whatever. Like, even if you go look at that Kansas game, the first of the season, we should have beat the brakes off of them. And then we come out in the second half, and I'm like, we ain't going to try to stop them, do nothing. Like, we were just trying to outscore people.
Right.
And I kept saying to myself, I was like, okay, they went and got the 7-footer. He went through the issues with, getting clearance and all of that. So he finally gets cleared. And in my mind, I'm like, we got 3 7-footers. Hopefully, by the end of the season, Cal is going to implement some kind of defensive scheme to where he can utilize our size plus guards.
Right.
Figure it out to where can't nobody score on us on the inside and our guards lock down the perimeter and make it harder, because we already know, push come to shove, can't nobody score with us.
Right, exactly.
I just kept waiting, and it never happened. So I'm like, what is the point of getting these big old kids if you're not going to play them to their strengths? So the season keeps going and going, and I'm like, we gave up, 100 and something, what was that, to Arkansas?
Yeah, it was like 104 or something.
Something crazy. And I'm like, if it was a Carolina or somebody like that, it would make sense to me. But every team that came into Rupp was comfortable. And I ain't used to that.
Right.
So going back to the Tubby and all of that, it's like, to me, Tubby Smith was an old school minded coach. He didn't want the flashy kids. He wanted the kids that was going to strap up their boots and we going to go to work and we going to earn it and win it. If you remember, I'm like, that's Chuck Hayes now.
Right.
These ain't no big standout names in terms of NBA caliber kids.
Right.
But they were exciting to watch. The passion was there. The energy was there. And it's like the year Rondo, the Morris twins. What was that? Eric Crawford.
And we had Patrick Sparks. Remember those?
I remember all of that.
Yeah.
So it's like the year Rondo and them lost. I don't forget how far they got, but I remember as soon as they lost, like, he didn't even come back to campus. Like, it was a wrap. But you saw how disgruntled the fan base was. And it was like Tubby Smith could never get past the first weekend. Or if we get to a Sweet 16, he never turned that corner. And people was upset at the caliber kids he was bringing in. Like, why is he not going after these big names? I'm like, I remember that.
Yeah.
To the point to where people was going out on this man's yard.
Yeah.
So I'm frustrated about that. So then, the Billy G thing happens. That's a soft subject. But it was like, you knew he didn't have any business being at Kentucky.
No, I don't even know where he was. Where did he come from?
Was he A&M at the time?
Texas, I think so. Texas A&M.
I think so too. So you knew that wasn't going to work. And then boom, they go and snag Calipari. So at the beginning of the whole Calipari era, I'm full on board because of the first Big Blue Madness with John Wall and all of them. I was there. You felt the energy. You felt it. And you just knew it's like, okay, Kentucky basketball is back. But then as the years went on by, it's like, okay, is Cal losing his touch? Is he losing his edge? And I kept talking about it after we lost to UConn in the championship. That was what? The Julius Randle team.
Yeah, when, gosh, what was his name? That guy
Napier,
from UConn.
Boatwright.
Yeah.
Winning our back. The twins was on that team too, right? Harrison's.
The Harrison twins, yeah.
And what peeped me off, and I'm going to give you the floor. I'm saying all this because I want to set the tone for why I feel the way I feel currently. That was the year Louisville played UConn like 3 times. Twice in the regular season, and then they ended up matching up in the I think they were still Big East. And Louisville beat them by like 30 points every time.
Mm-hmm.
So in my mind, I'm like, all Kentucky got to do is look at the tape. There's footage out there of what to do to beat them. And the game starts, and they just kept setting high pick and rolls, and we would go under them.
Mm-hmm.
And we kept leaving their guard just shooting threes wide open. I'm like, when is he going to tell them stop going under the screens? And it never happened. And I'm like, wait a minute. Hell no. Like, this is a Hall of Fame coach.
And it's basic fundamentals.
Like,
yeah.
Now I'm looking at everything now with a side eye because I'm like, wait a minute. Because I was peed off about the John Wall and them losing with the 1-3-1. And I'm glad, I don't know if you've seen it yet. He did a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And him and Cousins was talking about it. And I was like, even that year, I'm like, bro, they in a 1-3-1 with a guard on the back. We didn't even have real shooters that year. You talking about Wall, Bledsoe. The only real shooter we had, what was dude's name? Was it Dotson?
Eric was it
something
Eric
Dotson, I think.
Dotson.
Hell, that's been over 10 plus years ago.
It's been a long time.
It makes me feel so old because the year that we won the championship was the year Aubrey was born.
Oh, wow.
Aubrey was only like 2 or 3 weeks old.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hell, her birthday next week, she'll be 12. And we ain't like even came close. So that's why I'm like, all of this, I've been teed off. But that's why from that point moving forward, you would always see me toss Cal ain't, I ain't gonna cuss too bad on here. I was like, Cal ain't this, Cal ain't that, Cal's terrible. And a lot of Kentucky fans was like, bro, what the F are you talking about, bro? Like, shut up. Like, I get tired of seeing you. And I'm like, nah, man, like, I'm looking at the game different.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like a lot of Kentucky fans couldn't get past the star power of the players. And I felt like Calipari's just riding these kids. Like, don't get me wrong, Calipari's resume speaks for itself.
Mm-hmm.
Going all the way back to Canby and Memphis and all of that. I'm not taking anything away from him, but I feel like with the kids that he was recruiting, it didn't matter what school they went to.
Right.
They was going to go to the NBA. So what is it about Cal in terms of coaching makes them that much better? Because I felt like he wasn't developing kids.
Mm-hmm.
So long story short, I'm saying all of this because I haven't been the biggest Cal fan in a long time, simply off of coaching. But now after Thursday, you check the temperature in the room, Lexington is hot. Like, people are very upset. So I'm saying all of that to ask you. I'm not asking you to turn against Cal. That ain't what the whole point of this episode is. But it's like, how did you feel about Cal coming in? And how do you feel about it now? Because the whole point of this episode is to ask, where does Kentucky basketball go from here?
Right. I feel like, first, I think Calipari, and I think my view may be, because I am a woman, so I have a more motherly perspective.
Okay.
So if I was to give my 17, 18-year-old son to a coach, there's nobody I would be more comfortable with giving him to than Calipari. Because I feel like he truly cares. I feel like, he's going to do what's best for the individual
Absolutely.
person in the end. However, after the game, I'm just like, everything he does for these kids, great, top notch. We can't beat him,
Mm-hmm.
I saw Reed Shepherd, I watched his post-game interview. He was in tears, crying. They asked him, is Coach Cal to blame? We have the greatest coach in the world. He's crying, snotting at the nose, all of that.
Oh, wow. I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I'm like, okay, I get it. but he's not hired or paid by these players. He's paid by the University of Kentucky, and he's hired to do a job, and that's to win championships.
Facts.
I'm thinking at first, I'm like, why are we in such an uproar? They did good. We had a fun season. This is one of my favorite teams,
in a while,
to watch in a long time.
In a while.
Probably since that 38-1 team. And then we had the quickly team. I like them. But this was my favorite team in a long time.
Yeah.
So, I was, full in, but I just feel like something, if he's going to stay, I don't know what, I think his contract is like $34 million.
They said at least 33 to buy him out.
So
now I will say this. I'm not foolish enough to be like, fire him, get him out of here, because there really ain't a replacement.
Right. Not for our expectations anyway.
And I feel like at this point, us as Kentucky fans, we've been spoiled with the caliber of kids that he has been able to bring in. And I feel like if we run him off, then that completely clips the type of kids that's been coming in. So now you're talking about hitting the reset button and having to start all the way over.
Yeah.
And possibly being the caliber of the people over here downtown. We ain't going to talk about them.
Yeah, we can't talk about them in the wife's house. She's a fan.
Right. I don't want that type of karma. Like, we've been laughing at them for the last 2 years or whatever. But it's like, I feel like if you force him out, then he takes everything with him in terms of recruiting and all of that. I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, because he was also one of the people that was like, Adrian, shut up, bro. Like, we're not going to find a better coach. Why are you on Cal? That's on the players. Cal can't put the ball in the bucket. I'm like, bro, he's not making any adjustments. You can't ask these kids to go out here and turn water into wine. They have to follow a coach. If the game plan ain't working, then that's his job to come up with something to put an end to what's happening. And I never saw it. Well, now he's on that, he's got to go. He's got to go. And I'm like, if anything, I would prefer that he changes his coaching staff. Bring in some defensive-minded coaches, something to where if something is happening on the floor, then he can look down to his staff and be like, hey, what do you think we should do?
And I never see him, and maybe I'm not paying attention, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I hardly ever see him, like, look over to the staff and, like you just said, like, what do you think? I never hardly see him do that. And I've seen, other teams, somebody will come over to the coach and, say something. But I've never really seen that kind of interaction
at all
from Cal. And, like, if you're not going to use them, then what are they there for?
Exactly. And it's like, I almost feel like it's a arrogance to Cal. It's like, I have better talent than you. I'm not changing nothing. Talent is going to prevail in the end. And in the beginning of his career here at UK, that was very true.
Right.
No matter what we were down, you just knew we going to come back. We may end up winning by 2 or something like that, but we have the talent to come back. Or if you look at that tournament run where Aaron Harrison was making all the shots late in the end, it was just like, we had the kids that could get the job done talent-wise to where he really didn't have to guide them. You fast forward, now the kids, yes, they have talent, but you still need somebody to mold them into a solid team. From my perspective. And I'm like, you never get that from him. Or it's a late game situation. We need a bucket. They call a timeout. You have no, like, I hardly ever see him with a
No.
clipboard, anything, and then we'll come out and heave
And
up
look
some
lost.
BS, and I'm just like, this
Like
ain't cool.
that lob that they tried to do. What game was that? Pissed me off. They tried to do that lob to Yanenzo, and I think Reed was hot that night. Reeves is always hot. So, and then after the game, the it didn't work. Then after the game, coach, he says that his first choice was the throw into Yanenzo, and then his second option, if he wasn't open, was to give it to Reeves. Why would Reeves ever be your second option?
I just don't get it.
I don't understand that. I think that was the game where I was like, what is happening? Like, why would you have to know who you have on your team? You have to know their strengths. Yanenzo, I love him.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be careful of what I say because I love these, kids. I don't want to be, critical. I'm not a coach. I've never played. I was a cheerleader. We
was going to touch on that because real quick, not to interrupt you, because I wanted to highlight that, growing up back home, you cheered at Murray too, right?
No.
Okay, my bad. But I'm saying you've always been around basketball.
Yeah.
You've seen it enough to where you can have a conversation.
Right.
You know what's happening out there. So that's why I'm like, nah, we finna talk about this.
Right.
Because this ain't just a random person looking at it from a fan's perspective. It's like you've been around it.
Yeah.
So you can talk.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Like
my bad.
My parents actually got know this off subject, but when I came home and was like, oh, I want to try out for cheerleading, they both looked at me like, what the? Because my mom, she played, at South Fulton.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, she was, an all-star there. My dad, he played every sport you could think of, for at Fulton City. So they were just like, where do we go wrong? And I remember my daddy saying, I'll pay for it, Carol, but I'm not going to them games. I'm not going to practice. I'll just pay for it, He was just, so distraught, So, yeah, I've been around it. My husband, he played. His name is in the rafters at Fulton City. He tells me every story like I wasn't there, but whatever. So, yeah, I've been around it. I've watched it, like I said, since I was 10, 11 years old. It's Kentucky, Kentucky, Kentucky,
And I think a lot of people don't understand that. Like, I try to explain to some people that's not from Kentucky, like the passion, like we eat, sleep, and drink basketball in the state of Kentucky. And when it comes to Kentucky basketball, the expectation is just different. Some people are happy with making the tournament, just making it. Some people are ecstatic with a Sweet 16. Yeah. And it's like, for Kentucky basketball, bro, that's a given.
They're excited to just beat Kentucky. And we'll,
And even with us going to the Final Four, he was like, oh, my God, we're going to the Final Four. What more do you want? I'm like, bro, with the caliber kids he got, Final Four, like, why are we at Big Blue Madness celebrating Final Four banners?
Yeah.
I'm sounding like Kobe now. We only celebrate championships.
Yeah.
And I'm like, at first, I did think I was tripping. I was like, maybe I'm too harsh. Maybe I'm whatever. Like, just be happy. But it's like, okay, number one class after number one class after number one class. And it's like, we ain't going nowhere with it. We're losing to teams that we should blow out. And that's why I'm just like, nah, it ain't.
I think a lot of the problem, when you look at, first of all, there's no more. Anthony Davis is a once-in-a-lifetime player. Maybe in the next 10 years we might see another Anthony Davis, walk through the door. But John Wall, same thing, even though they didn't, win. but you have to have players to me. And I noticed this last year when we had Oscar and Jacob Toppin.
Mm-hmm.
It was a game where, Toppin, he just didn't, show up and wasn't making, the best decisions. Then after the game, they interviewed him, and he basically apologized and said he, you know, I hate to say it, but just didn't, feel like it was on him. He just wasn't, didn't feel like it, And you have Oscar, when we lose Oscars in the middle of the court, they're having to pull him off. He's literally playing basketball, to feed his family. Like, it's different for him versus Toppin. Not saying he doesn't care, but he already has a brother in the NBA. So
they good.
Yeah,
regardless.
He ain't really, he
Right.
ain't missing no meals. I don't know what his life was like growing up, but he don't have the same urgency about it,
Right.
as Oscar did. So I feel like you have to have a mixture of kids that's talented as well as have, the urgency, about it, or they don't, care. Like, I look at DJ Wagner. I love DJ Wagner. I do. I think he's a great kid. However, I don't think he had that, urgency, about him. Not saying, I know his dad was in the NBA, but not saying he was spoon fed or anything like that. But if you look at DJ, that North Carolina game, let's use that game. It was a picture of him where he's, got the ball. RJ Davis is on him, and he's got his, tongue out like he's hungry. I'm like, when I saw that picture, I'm like, yes. And then plus we beat him. Then that whole game, they couldn't guard him. They couldn't do nothing with him. He was driving to the basket at will. At some point in the season, he forgot that he can do that whenever he feels like it. Nobody can guard him when he does that, and just settled for trying to shoot threes. I don't know if it's because he wanted to be a part of we're the top 3-point shooting team in the country. Like, you have to know, like, what your strengths are, and that's just not his strength. Like, you get your points. You help your team by driving to the basket. That's how we beat North Carolina.
Yeah. I agree there.
And we don't have those players like that anymore that understand. And I think a lot of that, too, falls on Calipari, because he should have pulled him to the side a long time ago and said, that's not what your strength is. This is what we need you to do.
I agree. And just to kind of piggyback off of it a little bit, also, I feel like these kids don't understand what it means to put that uniform on anymore. And that's why I started out with referencing Tubby and the caliber kids that he would go after, because it's like college basketball used to be about player development. You had those players that stayed 2 and 3, if not all 4 years, and the fan base grew to love them because of how hard they worked and the passion they brought to it. So then we hit this one and done era, and it's like, there's no way that these kids can come in and understand the full tradition of Kentucky basketball in 6 to 9 months. It's impossible. But because of the road to the NBA, Calipari's funneling them in. That's his recruiting method, in my opinion. I'm bringing John Wall and them back. I'm bringing everybody back. So now we keep all these younger seniors in high school see this. I want to go be a part of that.
Right.
So instead of building a program based off of tradition, hard work, now we have a program that's built off, I can get you to the NBA. So if you lose early in the tournament, I ain't worried about it, bro. I'll see y'all in June. And that's the part that has frustrated me, because I've picked up on it. If you look at, yes, he sent a ton of kids to the NBA. And I'm not disrespecting him for that, because at the end of the day, why wouldn't that be your goal? Mm-hmm. If I can get there early, cool. But if you look at from the time he got here to the kids that's going now, you knew John Wall was going to be a star. Mm-hmm. You knew Cousins had a long career. You know, unfortunately, injuries got him.
Right.
Julius Randle, Anthony Davis. But then you skip down the line, and it's like, yes, some of these kids got their name called, but after a year or two, you don't hear nothing else from them.
Right.
Which, in my opinion, shows that they should have stayed another year. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, why is he not encouraging these kids to come back? Mm-hmm. And that's the part that was frustrating too, because I'm like, again, my opinion, there's no way that Ty should have left.
No.
Now imagine if we had a team with him being the leader and we got the same kids that's coming. I'm like, there's no doubt in my mind that we're not making a deep tournament run.
Right.
And I'm like, that's the part that's missing. So when you look at UConn just won a championship, but a lot of their kids came back. Mm-hmm. Like, that's what college basketball is supposed to be about. And I feel like Kentucky has gone away from that. And now the whole fan base is thirsting for it. Mm-hmm. We see what's going on now, and it's like we're trying to get back to it.
Right.
So that's why I was like, nah, we having this conversation because I really want to sit down and talk Kentucky basketball, because going back to our grandparents and stuff, it's like, that's why I used to be upset. I'm like, bro, Kentucky's on again. Like, I'm sick of it. And you went to school, and like you said, they was winning championships and stuff. So everybody at school had Kentucky jackets, shirts. Hell, I even remember the Pizza Hut SEC ball had all the teams and stuff on it. It was like you grew up hungry for basketball.
Yeah.
And Kentucky was the top of the top. And it's like, we haven't won the SEC tournament since what, 2018?
Yeah.
That's not normal. Kentucky dominates the SEC.
And what he say, he don't even care.
Exactly.
He said that. He was like, this, you know what tournament I care about? And I'm like, it don't, like, we can't tell, because, like, we're sitting here, you know, our team don't play today. Our team went home.
Exactly.
Thursday, you know. I've been sick all weekend.
I see you got the blue on too, so I was like, nah, I ain't putting nothing on blue till July or something. Nah.
You know, I have absolutely nothing planned for this weekend because I cleared my calendar, you know. Because I'm, you know, supposed to be watching games. I threw my bracket away.
Yeah, it's a wrap.
You know.
All the SEC teams killed me.
But my thing with Calipari, you know, I watched that interview where DeMarcus Cousins was saying he wanted to come back. He wouldn't let him come back. And then I've heard, too, that Oscar even, you know, wanted to come back again, and he wouldn't let him come back. And that's where things, like, have to. It's no question, you know, Mitch, whoever he's talking to about his contract or is making a decision, has to sit down and be like, if these kids, you know, want to come back, you have to, like, let them come back. Why would you tell Oscar? It makes me mad because I think about how good, because Oscar is so, he would just do whatever we need.
Put his hard hat on. He's all of energy, hard work, effort. And
even if he wasn't starting.
Right.
You know, even if Cal said, Oscar, we just need you to go in here and get this rebound for us.
Yep.
He would have gladly went in and did that with a smile on his face if it meant getting us to a championship.
Exactly.
That's how bad Oscar wanted it. So
shout out to my guy Dante. For whatever reason, they didn't like Oscar. So every time he had a big game and stuff like that, I would always tag and mention him because I enjoyed just his effort.
Yeah.
And it's like, to me, defense and rebounds is just want to. You got to want to play defense. That's why the other night I was pissed because I'm like, this kid, whoever he is for Oakland, after he hit the second or the third three, I'm like, okay, we got to start guarding him. Mm-hmm. But nobody took on the challenge to say, we're not going to let him get another shot. Everybody just kept chasing and chasing. I'm like, dude, switch your defense. Mm-hmm. Get out of man to man. Like, your kids are just running off screens, chasing this kid around the court, and by the time he catch it, the ball's going up. Switch your defense.
They were tired.
It never happened. And I'm like, dude, like, if I can see this from the couch, and that's why sometimes when I be going on my rants and I'm posting, I'm like, I'm pretty sure people are like, man, I wish he would shut the hell up. But it's like, I'm looking at the game to see what Calipari's going to do. I don't care about the kids at this point. Where is the coach to drive them in a different direction? You see we heading down a dead-end street, but you're not going to turn them around
right
and veer off. It never happened. And I guess they just assumed the second half we're just going to turn it on and do what we're supposed to do. And it's like, it never happened.
And I could tell. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. Go ahead.
I could tell in the first minute when Shepard got on the floor, he just looked like somebody slapped Stacy, and he was scared half to death.
Scared, like out of his mind.
Scared, and I mean, you can't really get mad, at Reed because
he's a freshman.
He's a kid.
He's a freshman.
But at what point does Calipari see that, or somebody on the staff, and say, call a timeout and pull him off, and say, you get it together, because if you can't get it together, you can't go in.
Exactly.
Because what did he do for us?
Besides mess up my tickets. Shout out to the people on the live. Shaq from back home. He said, I would say he's a business-minded coach. Hold on. He's a business-minded coach. He's going to get those young men to the next level, but X's and O's, that's his assistant coaches. I would trust my kid with him to get them to the NBA, but as far as getting them ready to play, what else? That's his other coaches, in my opinion. He's like, I may be wrong. And then shout out to my family down there in Tampa. Sad that these kids know that and they choose Kentucky. And it's like, who's going to turn down an almost guaranteed road to the NBA? Mm-hmm. If I got if somebody came in here and said, we're recruiting Peyton, and it's like, you got a choice between Kentucky, Illinois, right, anybody outside of a blue blood, or Duke or Carolina or whatever, where the spotlight's going to be there. It's like,
right,
nah, we going to Kentucky.
Right.
We know the spotlight's there. ESPN's going to eat it up. Here's everything you need to advertise and showcase your talent.
Right.
So it's like, I get it. It's a no-brainer. That's why I feel like at this current moment in time, firing Calipari is not the answer, because that's an automatic hit the reset button. But it's like, he's got to build a stronger staff. He's got to change or tweak something. And that's why I used the word arrogance earlier, because I'm like, he's proven and he's shown that he's not going to do it. And then after every game, we're a young bunch. We're just like, I'll be over here boiling.
Actually, you're not. This year, and I'm with you. I hate it when he said that, because I'm like, actually, you can't use that excuse anymore. You have Antonio Reeves, who's your leading scorer, All-American. You've got Trey Mitchell. You've got Thiero, who came back, Unenzo, who came back. And it was a time where nobody came back.
Right.
Now you actually have people coming back, plus a mixture of young talent. Boom. This is the formula that we thought was actually going to work.
Yep.
And it's still not working.
Because it requires coaching. And that's something where it's just like, I'm just glad other people are starting to realize it. And I didn't get to see First Take the other day, but I saw the clip where even Stephen A. Smith was like, Calipari's run at UK has been him underachieving. And I wholeheartedly agree. And 10 years ago, people was like, no, you crazy. We got the best class coming in year after year. We're going to Final Fours. We're doing this and doing that. So it made the argument harder from my end because I'm like, okay, I can't argue against we're going to the Final Four. We lost in the championship to UConn. We lost to Wisconsin. You know, it happens. It's sports. But it's like after that, I'll say the last 8 years, it's been nothing but disappointment.
Yeah.
Based on the caliber kids that we had, based on the regular season that we had, and the teams that we lost. If we would have lost to a Kansas in the tournament,
right,
or Duke or that caliber of team, then you live with it.
Right.
But a St. Peter's.
And we did it, if you look at our schedule all year long, we underachieved. It's like we played down to our competition. And Tennessee, we went in there and beat them. Auburn, we went in there and beat them. North Carolina, we beat them, but we let UNC, well, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's like,
right.
Alabama, we put up 117 points on them.
That's why this tournament, I was like, oh, Kentucky. I put UConn, but in my mind, it was my reverse psychology because I really feel like I'm cursed. I really feel like whoever I pick, they're going to lose, so pick the opposite. But I'm like, I was very strong about Kentucky making a deep tournament run just off of offense. I looked at that bracket, I'm like, for once, I'm not upset with it. Because in years past, I'm like, they always managed to put Carolina in front of us. They always managed to put West Virginia or Kansas State. Like, strategically, I felt like they would put these tough matches in the second or third round.
Sabotage.
Exactly. Yeah. Where it's like this, I'm like, okay. Possibly an NC State. I'm like, I ain't worried about no NC State. I don't care about that.
I wasn't even worried about Purdue because I felt like, which I think it would have been Elite Eight when we ran into them, or Final Four, one of them. But I wasn't worried about Purdue because I felt like Edie was too slow. And
outrunning, right?
You know, he even thought about it. We'd be down the floor.
Yeah.
You know, so
I was like, worst case scenario, our toughest matchup would have been Houston.
Yeah.
Houston's got a lot of quick guard play, but I'm like, bro, I'm taking Reeves and Dillingham. I'm taking them anywhere. I'm like, let's go. But I knew the defense was going to be the issue in the end. But I'm like, first round, you give up 10 threes to a kid that they say he was recruited as a D2 player. And I'm like.
And he looked like Matthew Perry. He does. Rest his soul. You know?
Oh my goodness! But I'm like, that's the part that makes it so frustrating, and that's why after this we'll wrap it up. Ain't no sense in just keep repeating over and over or rambling. But it's like that's why I want people to hold him accountable as a coach, because when you took this job, there was a standard, there was a requirement. And I feel like we got lost in the hoopla of, look at this new kid that's coming in. And that's why I felt like Calipari's whole thing was, help me help you.
Right.
That's his pitch to every young kid's parents. Help me help you. If you send your kid with me, I guarantee I'm going to get him to the NBA. I'm going to do this and do that. But guess what? On the back end, I'm also going to keep getting these contract extensions. I'm going to get a lifetime deal. Kentucky's going to cash me out as long as I keep these shiny, bright lights on our recruiting and not winning. And it just drives me crazy. And I'm like, hold him accountable. Like, bro, like we don't even when did losing just like, oh, we'll get him next year. Wait till the class we got coming next year. I'm like,
don't even care.
Wait till the class we got coming next year. Like, what? When do we start talking about that? So now you see the memes and stuff, and it's like Kentucky's the Dallas Cowboys of college basketball, and I'm like, bro, he done messed up our whole everything. So where do we go?
I think, like you said, I don't think firing, and I'm taking a lot of heat on Twitter right now because I'm like, you know, it's just not the answer. And my argument to them, Big Blue Nation on Twitter, is that we're about to kill ourselves over losing, a tournament game. What happens if, let's say, we do get rid of Calipari? We end up in another Billy situation, or God forbid, Kenny Payne situation. It's not guaranteed we're going to get somebody in here that can start winning immediately. Right. We may have to wait 1 or 2 seasons,
if not longer.
Yeah. Then we're complaining about tournament wins. We're not even going to make the tournament at that point. Then what are y'all going to do? So as a fan base, I don't even think we can handle not even having a winning season. Because I know that season we won only 9 games. I tried to forget that season. I don't even know who played, who was on the team. I don't know. To me, they're not even, it
ain't even worth mentioning.
It ain't even worth talking about. I don't even, who? I don't even know who they are. Right. But, yeah, I definitely think I've heard that they're supposed to sit down Monday, Mitch and John, and just talk about, maybe where we go from here. I think Mitch needs to tell John Calipari, Final Four bust. It's unacceptable. His foot needs to be held to the fire because right now he thinks he's untouchable. Mm-hmm. He's not going anywhere, and that should never be the case when you're employed. Nobody should ever feel like they can just come in anywhere. I can't do that. I can't, show up to work and say, well, I might do this, and then still think I'm going to have, a job. No, there's standards, and those standards need to be made very clear. If I've heard Shepherd wants to come back. I don't think Shepherd's done. Shepherd made it very clear he wanted to win a championship, at Kentucky. Calipari is one of those coaches, with Shepherd being a lottery pick. Mm-hmm. He's one of those that would try to push him away. It needs to be made very clear that if they want to come back, let them come back.
I agree.
Because that's the only way. If you think about it, if Shepherd comes back, DJ, Edwards, we get our big men. I don't know why our big men are so skinny.
That's a whole nother conversation right there, because I was so disappointed in your boy Bradshaw.
Yeah.
When he came back, I was like, okay, he's skinny, he's thin, but I was like, okay, maybe he's going to be agile, run the floor, do all this and that. And I'm like, everybody keep moving him around. He's in foul trouble. I'm just like, bro,
soft. So it's definitely some work that needs to be done, but yeah, it's
tough.
With it.
It's tough. That's why I was like, look, we can vent and rant together. We can do all this and sit here and cry at all these games. And so I was like, bro, we supposed to be playing today.
Supposed to be playing. It's just it's unacceptable, and I don't like being laughed at.
Look, I saw your post. You was like, look, I'm ready to go to Facebook jail.
Like, please, I can't take it. I literally, no lie, Adrian, sat in the bed, curled up in a ball, and cried. I was so hurt. I was disappointed, and I text my cousin. Do you know Trey Pearson?
Of course I do.
His wife. I messaged Danny because, their son, he's up and coming, and I'll be tweeting Calipari like, we need to go look at this kid, you know. But I messaged her, I said, how do you do it? I said, because these kids, I don't know them from Adam, you know, and I'm just over here tore up, you know, and I got, you know, a little boy that, you know, hopefully he's in sports and stuff, and I'm just going to be a nervous wreck.
It's crazy out there.
How do you do it? Like, I just don't understand. I don't know why I'm like that. I said, do I need therapy? Should I talk to somebody about this? But I was crying.
It took me the first year of watching Aubrey when she was at Brandeis to sit back, because it was like, okay, this is her first year playing, and she's out there nervous. I'm yelling at her. Mr. Bell yelling at her. So her mind is in so many different places. Plus, with me coaching, I see it firsthand. There's a kid out here. I'm telling him what to do. His mom and daddy's telling him what to do. And I see how torn they are. It took me seeing that to like, you know what? Scale back. Just let them figure it out. Just go through it. But it's like with Peyton, on the other hand, I started yelling at him because I'm like, me and him are always in the driveway, or I take him and we're always, so I know he can do it. But for whatever reason, when he's out there, he's nervous, he's scared, or he's shy. So now I'm frustrated and I'm angry. And I'm like, as a parent, quit trying to live through your kid. Just let them figure it out.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's hard. It is hard.
Yeah.
So prayers to you. The older he gets.
Yeah. Because Lexi, she did basketball, but she wasn't. She just does it, you know, for fun. She's not really, you know, serious about it. She was real. Her thing was cheerleading, and we did the competition, you know, cheering and traveling, and you know, went to Florida for, you know, national competitions and stuff. So, and they were, you know, good. So I didn't really have any stress because, you know, she was good. She's just naturally, you know, good at it, better than I was. So I couldn't really, you know, have a say in the fight. 'Cause I'm like, dang, girl, do your thing. You know, she was doing it. But now, you know, I'm like, with this little one, I'm sure he's going to want to, he loves football. I'm sure he's going to like basketball. And that's just a whole different
especially
game. And I'm
here.
like, oh, God.
I'm going to say that because we're both from the same area. And I feel like that's the biggest difference. If I could explain it to people, it's like where we're from, small little county schools, similar to what we was talking about with Kentucky. It was like, I feel like back at home, we had to learn the fundamentals, the basics, and things like that. We were taught how to play basketball. Where here, it's so many kids to where they're running just off of talent, in my opinion. There's so many kids here that can jump and run and this and that, but you can tell a lot of them don't understand the game. They're just out here playing off athleticism. But it's like, okay, whenever we would match up, they would always beat us because we didn't have the talent.
Right.
But I feel like that's the biggest difference. Now that we're living up here in Louisville, it's like we got kids, you want them to play sports. And that's why I tell him, Peyton, all the time, I'm like, back at home, I don't know how it was at Fulton, but it was like they'll make an announcement. If you want to play basketball this year, come to the gym. It was only maybe 10 or 11 people that showed up anyway. So almost everybody made the team.
Right.
Last season for us at Cochran, we sent out flyers for basketball tryouts. 42 kids showed up. So it's like 30 kids had to be turned away. So I'm like, that's the difference. It's like, yes, you want your kids to just grow and fall in love with the game and this and that. But at the same time, you got to push them a little bit, because if not, they're just going to pick the kids that's the most talented.
Right.
And it's so hard. So hopefully your son, you say he likes football, basketball, things like that. Just help him tap into it, fall in love with it, but still give him that little nudge, because it's like night and day here versus back home. And even with that, it drives me crazy because it's a lot of politics here in Louisville. And I hate it. People stealing and recruiting kids. I'm like, bro, this is almost like college for real.
That's crazy.
You'll move a whole family to the other side of the city just so he or she could go and play for you and things like that. And it's just like,
yeah,
I ain't used to it. But quick thing, you mentioned Trey Pearson.
mm-hmm.
I had to learn the hard way. I think I was maybe a sophomore, either a sophomore or a junior, and we was at a basketball camp in Lexington at Transy, and there was this kid that was like, I'll play anybody one-on-one for some money and this and that. Me, high-headed, cool, let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody on my team was like, nah, man, you don't want to do that. Nah, that's Trey Pearson. That's Trey Pearson. I'm like, who? I'm like, who? Like, I didn't know who he was for real. And we got done eating lunch that day. And usually by about 5 or 6 o'clock is when we were done playing for the team. So we had some free time before we had to go back to our dorms or whatever. So we was like, we going to play at like 6, one-on-one for some money. And we got back, and they was like, dude, he plays for South Fulton. He's the number one this. He's that, and this. I never did even show up. That's my Trey Pearson. And before you knew it, I saw him on TV. Where'd he go at first?
Murray State.
Nah, before that.
Was it Ole Miss?
Ole Miss.
Yeah.
That's what it was. I'm like, bro, he's on TV at Ole Miss. I was like, I was finna get my ass whooped that day. I was getting ready to lose some money.
Tennessee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was tough. He was. So, yeah, I know who he is. I dodged that bullet. I really did. Great conversation. I really enjoyed this. That's why I tell people, I'm like, man, pull up. Some people are just like, I'm nervous. Mm-hmm. I don't want no cameras and stuff on me. But I'm like, just pretend like it ain't there. We just talking. And it makes for a better conversation than to sit here and just be arguing back and forth and things like that. But
we're gonna get us one though. I just feel like in the next,
it's hard,
2 to 3 years. I want to say next year so bad because I just feel like we're gonna have some key pieces come back. I feel like Reed will be back. Bless his heart. I just wanted to give him a hug. I did. I just wanted to be like, come on, baby, and give him a hug. Bless his heart. I feel like we're going to have some key pieces along with who we have coming in. Mm-hmm. Cal knows, it's deliver or go to wherever you're going, but it ain't going to be here. So I think, I think we'll see a better outcome.
I hope so. And I will admit you done changed my tune a little bit. I heard you earlier. You was like, you kind of have that motherly feeling, and I'm listening to you now, and it's like sometimes maybe I am harsh in the words that I choose when I'm watching a game and I'm like saying all this craziness. At the end of the day, they're still 18 and 19-year-olds and things like that. But it's like, I'll be over here so heated. I was like, bro, we just watched Texas A&M going our back in the SEC tournament. This kid went crazy from 3. And in the next game, you see another kid going crazy from 3, and you didn't implement nothing that we was going to do from the last game. If we see this again, this is what we going to do. And Texas A&M went crazy last night, too. I'm like, come on, man. That's supposed to be us. But anywho.
We're still for those that say we're not, we're still the standard, I believe, until a North Carolina or a Duke takes over as the winningest program or gets more championships. Right now, nobody's better than UCLA, And
but we done had plenty of time to catch up with them. That's why I'm mad. We should have been done caught them.
Plenty of time to catch them. So y'all done had time to catch Kentucky, but you ain't caught us. So until you catch us, hey, it is what it is.
That's the standard. You know what? We leaving it right there. That's the perfect mic drop right there. So if y'all enjoyed this episode, man, y'all know what to do, man. Hit the like, share, subscribe, tell a friend and tell a friend. And we are out. Peace.
Ass toasted, no competition, unleash coasting. I feel so high, I feel so alive, my body intertwined. Unleash coasting, I feel so live, and I know why. That I can't deny. Unleash coasting, giddy fine wine, fools, malt liquor. Wish me a high class.